with the vaccines and the cases go down and flatten the curve. So there's a real interest to lay the groundwork for a Canada-wide childcare system. We're looking at training. We're looking at climate action. Uh, some of the other things are being considered, like grants to homeowners to help with energy efficiency. Um, so I think we're
And again, we're very, very thankful for the ability to work with you. And please keep us
okay.
posted about your grandchild.
Okay, I will. And thank you to everyone. Hopefully next year, uh, we'll all be able to get together, maybe in Hay River, and have a face-to-face, and things will be a little easier. And then Robert Bouchard could pay me back that lunch he owes me, and everything will be all happy, and things will be good. Okay, take care, everybody.
Okay, you take care.
Take care, Mike. Thanks.
We are pleased to welcome another strong advocator for the Northwest Territories, our Senator, the Honourable Margaret Dawn Anderson.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So good morning, everyone, mayors, councillors, and support staff that are behind the scenes that I know I could not live without. So I've been fortunate to work the last month from my home community of Tuktoyaktuk. I am actually participating debated in the House of Commons with proposed Senate amendments deals with the right to die or dying with dignity. It will support Canadians suffering solely from grievous and incurable mental illnesses, making them entitled to medical assistance in dying. Concerns about unequal access to assisted dying for marginalized people, rural Canadians, and Indigenous people in remote communities have all. The quality of our health and healthcare services in the NWT are far below those delivered in the rest of Canada. How then would we ensure Bill C7 or MAID does not negatively impact us? The challenge then becomes, how do we as a territory ensure
we really appreciate your voice for the North in Ottawa. Do we have any questions or comments for Senator? It looks like you're off the hook, Senator.
Oh, thank you.
So I think, we do have one question.
Oh, we do have a question. Okay.
Hello, Dave Weaver here, Councillor Norman Wells. I just want to thank Senator Anderson for joining us. I remember your time and your travels. You actually visited our community, and one thing you brought up when you were here was a representation in Ottawa, how NWT has a lack of voice there. Is there a recommendation that you would have for not only the communities but also the NWT government, so that we're better recognized in Ottawa, so that we're being heard?
I know COVID-19 has put a lot of roadblocks in the way of awareness and education platforms. I think that it has to come at all levels. The challenges that are definitely out there is, I am one senator for a territory, and when you look at the representation of other regions, there are anywhere from 4 to 10 for provinces that are out there. So I know what I have worked really hard to do is to ensure that I partner with Nunavut, the Yukon, and Northern Manitoba to elevate the voices of the North, to work together collaboratively and collectively on issues that affect everyone. And I think we all have a role at different levels to play. Education is a key component on bringing forward an awareness. And one of the things I think, given the challenges we face in travel and the inability to meet face-to-face, is to maybe look at a collective online event that maybe we can host that would bring forward some information.
Again, we really appreciate having you come and attending our AGM, and we look forward to 2008 and is currently serving his 4th term. Garth has been elected to FCM's Board of Directors 11 times. Local governments with the right tools to meet the needs of Canadians. With a decade of leadership in bringing local solutions to national challenges through FCM, he knows firsthand that when orders of government work together as partners, they get more and more better results. Please give a warm NWTAC welcome to the President of the FCM, Mr. Garth Frizzell.
Oh, thanks a lot. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you today. I'm here in Prince George, BC, on the traditional unceded territory of the Lheidli T'enneh, postal code V2L3V9. I usually start my speech by talking about how I'm speaking to you from the north, and I will not do that today. As Lynn mentioned, I've been elected for 13 years, 12 of them on the board of FCM. And in that time, I have been to Haines Junction. I've been just south of Watson Lake. I've been to High Level. I've been to Iqaluit. Sometimes feel like I've spent a lifetime dancing around the outside of your territory. So when I finally got to be president, one of the privileges I looked forward to for more than a decade was finally getting to meet face to face, finally seeing the only place in Canada that I've never been, Northwest Territories. I guess this is the closest I get for now. Even though that's not an option right now, I want to say how proud FCM is to work with Northwest Territories Association communities, including your fantastic president, Lynn Napier, really bringing a strong Northern voice to Canada's national agenda. And I got to say that in partnership with our Northern and Remote Forum, it's really been a powerful advocacy body. We have gotten through doors in Ottawa that we might never have seen. And what President Napier said about us all being stronger, working together, it's so true. So I want to give a shout out to NWTAC, to Mayor Napier, to your vice presidents, to your whole organization and the Northern and Remote Forum. It's hard to believe it's been almost a year since COVID-19 turned our lives upside down. And local leaders, we've been on the front lines since day one. We're your national voice, so FCM's been there to help every step of the way. We are there to coordinate frontline efforts, to shape our response and help the federal government shape their response so it reflects Northern realities. And we've made important progress. Some of that was talked about earlier today. For months, FCM worked with local leaders all across the country to bring urgent attention to the financial crisis facing municipalities of all sizes. We made it clear that the rising costs and the falling revenues are threatening the local services that all Canadians rely on. And in northern communities like yours, fewer resources, more remote populations, that's making protecting the vulnerable residents even harder. MP McLeod referenced the Safe Restart Agreement. That was a direct response to the relentless advocacy of municipalities all across Canada working together. Prince George can't do it alone. None of us can do it alone. And it's by working together with you and working together with our friends all across the country that we get things done. That Safe Restart Agreement, that includes more than $2.3 million in federal funds that went to communities in the Northwest Territories. That kind of support means local leaders can keep our vital municipal services going strong while we're also gearing up to lead in the coming recovery of Canada. And that's not all. FCM and its partners, including NWTAC, have driven vital investments in communities throughout the pandemic, like the Rapid Housing Initiative. That helps municipalities and Indigenous governing bodies to scale up urgent housing solutions. Or new federal funding for rural and remote transportation that just got announced about a week and a half ago. The expanded $1.75 billion Universal Broadband Fund. That was a major step forward in connecting more Canadians to high-speed internet. When I moved up from Victoria to Prince George going north, I started a high-tech company, and back in those days, I would take my computer, strap it in with a seatbelt into my truck, and drive it north. And that was our version of the internet back then. We need things like universal broadband. It's critical. So FCM
together and pushing across the country with our and housing and climate change. We are grateful for being heard and a part of the COVID. Municipalities are such an important part of our communities that when COVID hit, one of the first things we looked at was how do we keep our water plant going in case our guys get sick, and you know, I think we can all appreciate that municipal services need to keep going no matter what, and how critical we are as communities, and that goes across the country. So at this time, I'm just going to see if there's any questions or comments. Oh, we have a question. Is that Olahaktak?
Yep, thank you. Good morning. Thank you for your presentation. And the question was, we tried getting on earlier, but I guess our video was not on. But we did turn that on. Anyways, more training opportunities at community level for youth. Maybe that might help push them go out from me. For small jobs, or you know, our communities have so opportunities for our youth that are out of high school or haven't gotten the chance to go to college because they're becoming young parents, and that would really be nice to see some sort of more training opportunities at the community level. Wanna hear my question?
I just missed the last bit of that, but I caught the need for training opportunity to go from high school to college. I was talking to the mayor at Tesco and youth on about that, a similar problem they're having. The representative of the college, as well as being the mayor there. You know, when we get into the restart, one of the big focuses the federal government's putting on is jobs and
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a in Inuvik.
Thank you. I just wanted to actually touch on an item that was brought up yesterday by Mayor Elias out of Tuktoyaktuk about the busing thing. I know that recently FCM put out an announcement about public transit, and I know within the document there it does talk about rural, so I assume that would also mean remote and northern. I guess how do small northern communities go about accessing that funding, or who at FCM should they get in contact with to learn more?
Thank you, Mayor Kolakowski. Yeah, that's a question I've been getting. I was talking to the head of the Rural Forum as well. So the piece last week was just the funding announcement, and we're just getting started to hear what the program is to look like. They haven't designed the program yet at the federal level. So as they're starting to, FCM's in there making sure that it's not just one size fits all approach. And they've committed to a rural stream. What that looks like is anybody's guess at this point. We're going to be pushing for something that reflects the realities of all Canada. And I know we're not nearly as north or nearly as remote, but we lost all the Greyhound service throughout British Columbia. So intercity bus transportation is gone. There's small providers who are coming in to do it, but you know, it's a common problem. Yours just a higher level of that problem. don't have an answer, but we're going to be there as that gets developed to make sure that those voices get heard. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you, Mayor Kulikowski, for your question. We also have a comment from Mayor Alty in Yellowknife that we definitely could use some O&M support for transit. And I think we could use some O&M support for everything. We can get funds for infrastructure and for programs, but we need are O&M funds to be able to keep those programs running and to keep going with those. One of the things, Garth, that you had brought up earlier was missing out on coming to Yellowknife, and we were supposed to have our board meeting last September in Yellowknife, and it's absolutely a pleasure to have you come to our AGM, and we'll be virtually. Hello?
To our question from earlier, was wondering about
partnership you've shown this past trying year. Welcome to our virtual AGM. The floor is now yours.
Thank you very much. And I know I'm the last thing between all of you and your lunch break, so I will try to make this as informative but as quick as possible. I do have a presentation that I will share on the screen, and for your information, I will send the presentation back out with the notes version after the meeting so that you don't have to be scrambling to write down everything that I say. And I will try to add any information from questions so that that allows you to kind of hear what the conversation is without having to try to write everything down as I speak. So if you'll bear with me for just a second, I am going to share the presentation into your screens, and hopefully you can see that. Can someone give me a thumbs up and let me know? Perfect. So today I'm going to, try to cover some of the most key areas that we work with all of you on, or where there may be updates and information that the folks around the call here might be interested in. Of course, this won't cover everything that MACA provides to communities, but I will try to hit the high points in the next little bit here. So I'll talk particularly about our mandate, which includes the reducing the funding gap that has already been talked about a couple times as I've listened to the call. I'll talk a little bit about the 2021-22 funding and rollout for funding for communities. Also tied to the mandate is the project to transfer lands to community governments. So I'll give an update on that. I'll cover a few areas under public safety. And of course, that's where a lot of our COVID response is linked. I'll talk a bit about our waste management strategy, and then into the School of Community Government, which hopefully will answer Mayor Lichtdoch's questions. Update on a few things in sport, physical activity and recreation, and legislative priorities, and just a few quick things on elections, and then hopefully leave a little bit of room for questions at the end of the session. I also will note, and I noted yesterday, that there are a number of new folks to the NWTAC joining today and yesterday. So at the end of the presentation, I have provided the contact information for all of our regional offices, and that is the first place you guys can contact for information about our programs and services and training, and they can link you to whoever it is you need to talk to. So I made sure that information is included in the presentation today. So first up, this is the statement that is in the mandate, acknowledging that you are our essential partners and you're the on-the-ground delivery agent for a lot of programs and services for your residents, and that you do need adequate resources to do that vital work. So when this government came into place, they did put a mandate in that said that they would reduce the funding gap by $5 million over the life of this assembly. And in the first year and a bit, despite COVID, we've been able to make some progress on that. So just to backtrack a little bit, all of you know, I think, that there are 33 communities that are responsible for the delivery of services at the local level. And MACA's role, in addition to providing advice and support, is to provide the financial resources to you for that work. Some of the folks around the table were involved in 2014 when we did a funding review. And the main purpose of that review was to look at our funding policies, assess whether they were delivering funding in a fair and equitable manner, and also determine whether the funding that was being delivered was adequate or not. There was a number of benefits of doing that review. One was that for the first time, ourselves and all of you as our partners, we were able to quantify and account for both the infrastructure assets that are on the ground in your communities to provide core programs and services, but also be able to quantify the O&M funding required to operate all of those assets and the programs and services that operate in those. We hoped, and I think we've at least found, that the information that funding policy work did gives the basis for some improved decision making. It's helpful for capital planning to help make informed decisions about infrastructure investments and balancing, those decisions about investing money in your existing assets versus investing in new assets, and looking at longer term needs for replacing high cost infrastructure such as your water treatment plants. So, that was done in 2014. And I think many of you know that over the previous assembly from 2014 to 2019, we did manage to invest about $11 million total. There was about 3.6 for O&M funding, 4.6 for water and sewer funding, and about 1.8 for capital invested during the life of the previous assembly. At the end of that assembly, though, in 2019, we did a very quick recalculation of the funding gap. And it showed that despite that $11 million investment, we'd actually lost ground because of things like, investment in new assets and inflation costs. And so as I say, one of the big things was there had been an increase in the value of infrastructure that was on the ground in communities during that 5 years. And we all know that when you invest in infrastructure, it's not only the cost of that infrastructure, but it's the ongoing need for operations, maintenance, and staffing of that infrastructure that drives significant costs moving forward. And although we did manage to invest 11 million and we did not reduce any funding to communities in that 5-year period, we did lose ground, and that was a very significant concern of the department moving into the 19th Assembly. And I think that was very helpful to us in the conversations about, what the priorities of the next government should be. And when Cabinet and MLAs had the conversation, it was very helpful to be able to demonstrate we needed a stronger commitment in the mandate. Some communities didn't get funding, but all communities who have a capital funding gap received an amended contribution agreement for funding in the November-December timeframe for that mandate money. In 2021-2022, that $2.594 million is still there. It is now part of our core funding. There is an additional $740,000 also identified in 2021-22, and which fund it is going to has not yet been confirmed. And that decision we expect to be made, of course, as the budget does get approved here in the coming weeks. So as soon, and I guess one of the big things I want to flag here, just because of the timing of the sitting of the Assembly and when the budget will be approved, many of you know the session is scheduled to go until March 31st. We usually, the budget in the budget session gets approved in that final week of sitting. So we have estimates of what those increases might be depending on which funding pot it goes to, but none of that will be confirmed until the budget funding from May till next March can all be want to take the responsibility for land administration over in their community and what that might entail in terms of, you know, the cost of administration, the cost of surveying potentially, and what it might mean in terms of responsibilities at the local level. I think many of you can probably imagine that once you take the responsibility over for all of the lands within your community boundary, you're then responsible for things like lease agreements if you choose to lease land, sale agreements, and what kinds of stipulations you put in place. And you may choose to use different terms, different pricing guidelines, etc., from what the GNWT has in place. And so once you do that, it would be very difficult to transfer it back to the GNWT. And so the reason for this second guide is to try to help a community make the decision about, you know, are you ready to advance with this, or do you need some training, some staffing, other things before you jump forward? And then the third piece that we'll be working to put in place is an actual training program for lands administration for community governments. And we're having a conversation with the folks working on the Polytech about that, because we think there's some areas of that training that would overlap with training for lands, for land and water boards, for environmental programs. So there might be some training that Polytech could organize, and then some specific training that MACA would coordinate through the School of Community Government on some of the municipal aspects of that administration. So that's where we're at with that process. It has slowed down significantly because of COVID, but I will talk a little bit more about that in the next section here. So public safety, as you can well imagine, because it's happened to you as well, much of the focus of the past year has been addressing COVID from various aspects. You know, number one for us, of course, was supporting all of you. And that included helping working on essential services plans, you know, what the community health plans for pandemics look like and what role communities may have in those. It's included transferring some money over that we've received from Canada and trying to understand what your costs were so that we could advocate for additional funding to come up with that. And as you heard from some of the previous speakers, there has been a fairly significant amount of money come in from Canada, but there is still a gap that we are still trying to advocate for support for communities. And as the FCM president spoke to, you know, we all know that even once vaccinations come, those cost pressures have not gone away. And so that support does need to continue moving forward. The one thing I do want to mention here under this section as well, you know, and so I'm just trying to figure out the best way to describe this, because it was living through it that was very interesting. The way that implementation of the public health orders came into play, and the role that MACA's emergency measures function had in supporting health with the COVID work. We had to reassign just about 60% of our staff to the COVID effort, all the way through until the COVID Secretariat was created. And then gradually we were able to return staff to their home positions, with the exception of a few who are still working to support the COVID Secretariat from the public safety perspective, and a few staff that they have borrowed from us on transfer assignments. But one of the things that did mean, and I'm sure that all of you felt the impact, although you probably were also focused on COVID, but it has meant that a lot of our policy work and legislative work and other things that we wanted to be working on last year have been significantly slowed down. And the other two items on this slide are two items that we have been working on for a while. We had hoped to be further along by this stage this year, to be talking about exactly, you know, what legislation we were moving forward with, but obviously that these folks have been sidelined with work on COVID and are just nicely starting to get back to preparing packages for engaging with stakeholders, and starting to try to figure out how to have some good meetings via Zoom, or, you know, where possible, if the numbers of people are small, you know, to do some face-to-face engagement opportunities as well. Because we do need to finish work on the ground ambulance highway rescue initiative, and we need to finish the work we've been doing on the Fire Prevention Act. And in particular, for those of you who aren't aware, and this does tie to previous resolutions of the Association of Communities, the area of the act that we're working on right now is the part of the act that speaks to plan review and inspections. And one of the things that we've been asked as we do this engagement with stakeholders is the Fire Prevention Act the right place to be dealing with some of that, or does the GNWT need to look at broader building legislation? And so as we talk to you, probably starting later this year, that will be some of the questioning that we will be talking about is, you know, is just fire inspections the work that we need to do, or do we need to look at broader, you know, building inspections, building legislation, and, you know, perhaps the Fire Prevention Act is not the complete work that we need to do in terms of support legislatively for the whole area of construction and compliance across the territories. When we've looked, we're the only jurisdiction in Canada that doesn't have some sort of building legislation. So that to us points to a gap that we need to consider. So these folks are very busy in public safety, and will continue to be for the foreseeable future. Moving into our operations area, in 2019, just prior to COVID, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources released the NWT Waste Management Strategy, and there are a number of goals, and through the federal funding, most of the costs for all of that work, which hopefully is also helpful to you. Sorry, just before I leave the waste area, I should, in the previous government, we had a priority to get some of our courses available for distance learning and online learning. And so we did have some materials already prepared to deliver in a different way. And that was helpful. But I think we all know that with COVID overwhelming us in terms of our work, all of us have not participated in training events the way that we usually would, and we've been otherwise occupied. So we have seen registration for courses drop, and we actually just put a number of courses on hold for quite a few months. We've posted a few courses recently and are trying to deliver when we can get enough folks registered, but we're recognizing that, you know, it might take some time for people to actually be available and to start really offering courses more fully again. Those of you who don't know about our School of Community Government, it is targeted to staff of community and Indigenous governments who are working, and this is both in class and workplace individuals doing jobs for community governments. And there is an opportunity to be certified in a number of the positions. So you can obtain a certification as a senior administrative officer, a finance officer, a works manager, a recreation, facility operator. There are quite a number of areas that you can receive certification as well. This is something I've been personally involved in for a long time from some of my previous roles, and I'm very proud. I can't show it to you behind me, but I hold the first certification as a senior administrative officer in the territory from when these programs were developed. So I'm very proud of the work the school's done in this area to be able to develop courses targeted to community government needs. So in the core areas that we deliver training at the moment are finance and administration, governance, planning and development, public safety, public works, and recreation. One of the things, we have had some significant staff changes in the school, and so there's two key things happening right now. One is, for a number of years, our program advisory committees have been somewhat stalled, and those are the folks both at your level and at the staff level who give us advice on the curriculum for and to try to make sure that what the courses are delivering is keeping pace with the needs that are out there. So if legislation changes or the environment changes, that our courses change along with that. So we are currently developing terms of references and actively seeking individuals to sit on these program advisory committees so that we can get community and Indigenous government representatives back involved in guiding the development of our training curriculum and our training courses. Secondly, because we've had a lot of changes at the school, the timing seemed to be very good to take a look at where we're going over the next 5 to 10 years with the school. Are we delivering courses in the right way to the right audiences? Is online learning the priority? Do we need to continue to target face-to-face learning? Questions like that we have, should we be focused on certification or should we just be focused on building capacity and not worry about certification? So a lot of those kinds of questions. So we're getting ready to do a bit of a strategic planning exercise. And once I've got the terms of reference of that drafted, I'll be sharing it with both NWTAC and the local government administrators, because both of you will be very key partners in that to let us know where you want the school to go. We'll also be engaging in our, within the government, because if you listen to the assembly, we often get asked the question, and we were during our budget review the other night, where the school fits versus the college and other educational institutions that exist in the NWT. Is there overlap, or do they work well together? And if there's any gray areas, how do we redefine those? So it just seems to be a good time to have that conversation and make sure that the direction we're setting for the next 5 or 10 years is in alignment with your needs, but also works well with the other developments that are happening with education here in the NWT. For sport, physical activity, and recreation, a few just key highlights for the coming year. I think the biggest one for us is that we have, I think, reached a final draft stage on our sport, physical activity, and recreation framework. We have done a presentation to standing committee, and we're just waiting for their feedback. And we've also met with our key sport partners and have received some feedback from them. So as I say, we're at a very close to final draft stage on that framework. That framework will do a couple things for us. One is it will give us a framework for how we distribute lottery funding to all of the sport organizations in the NWT. But it will also help guide what gaps we're trying to fill in the programs and services that we're delivering in this area. And some of the conversations have included, do we have gaps in programs for seniors or programs for under 5-year-olds, or nationally there's been a lot of focus on bullying and harassment in sport. And is that an area that we need to work with all sport organizations to create policies and training on? So this framework helps identify those priorities that we want to work on with our sport partners. And it will help target the funding that we get through the lottery fund to help us do that. So just a quick example, the Red Deer Declaration mentioned on that slide is the commitment by all provinces and territories in Canada to work on the issue of harassment in sport. And so we're hoping through the physical activity framework to create a policy that sport organizations can adopt and use, so that their coaches can be trained, their organizations can be focused on trying to reduce the instances of harassment and bullying in sport. So that would be a mutual goal that we would hope to work with all sport partners in the territory on. Also in the sport area, or that part of our department, of course, we have our youth and volunteerism program. Those of you that are aware of our youth ambassador program, it's one of the programs that we're very, very proud of. Youth that have been able to participate in the program, they receive guided and structured volunteer experience, get opportunities for life and job skill development, build confidence, and they get opportunities to go to national and regional sporting events and represent the NWT and be part of activities like that. Of course, with COVID, it did slow down the opportunities for the Youth Ambassador program this past year, but we are starting with another cohort of individuals here in the near future, and starting with some online training to begin their experience through the Youth Ambassador program. One of the things we want to talk to those folks about is a discussion that's come up in the Legislative Assembly about the creation of a territorial youth council. So we will engage with youth through that these exercises with support from the Youth Ambassador program to reach out to youth across the territory and to receive some feedback on what a youth council could do and how to create one, if that's where folks will have heard some of this already, and I've mentioned one of these already. In terms of our priorities for legislation during this Legislative Assembly, first there on the list is to complete the work on the Fire Prevention Act, and we are hoping to have a discussion paper out on that in coming months, to start a conversation about what we need to do to finish that act and make recommendations with regards to some of the building standards and inspection service questions that have been raised through resolutions by the NWTAC in previous years. Secondly, the Senior Citizens and Disabled Persons Property Tax Relief Act. We had started that work 2 assemblies ago, and then we were told to focus our efforts on 911 and the Western Canada Lottery program. So unfortunately, that work was set aside at the time, but now is a good time to pick it back up and finish it. The key goal with that legislation is going to be both to update it, but also to make sure it aligns well with other policies for seniors across the North. A couple things is, as you may be aware, one of the mandate items in this government is to increase the opportunities for seniors to age in place. And one of the issues, of course, that has been raised with us is things like the access to and ability for, and the inconsistencies in the current property tax relief provisions for seniors in the territory. There are different rules in different types of communities. The definition of seniors under our act is not necessarily consistent with the definition of seniors in other acts. So it's definitely time to update this piece of legislation and make it work better for seniors in the territory, especially, easier for those folks who do want to age in their own home and not have to go to long-term care facilities if their health allows them to do so. So we need to find a way to make these policies work better for folks like that. And I'm sure especially for the large 6 communities on the phone, we are finally getting to the Property Assessment and Taxation Act, which is long overdue. There are numerous resolutions from the Association of Communities, as well as a number of recommendations from folks that we've worked with, including assessors and contractors that have worked in property assessment through the North. This act has not had a comprehensive review since it came into force. So with this act, what we are proposing is to bring the legislation forward in 2 phases. First of all, we will look at trying to do, the first phase will be the easier stuff, a lot of the administrative changes and things that will make the act much easier to implement for communities and for the NWT. The second phase will be some of the more complex taxation questions that will take more time to assess options and engage with all of you on what the right direction is to take on those. But we still do hope to finish that second phase on that legislation within the life of this government. That is our goal. In addition to what's on the screen, I do, of course, need to mention, and I know it was raised in your executive director's report yesterday, the Department of Justice did pass the Access to Information and Protection of Privacy legislation in the last government. And in that act, it did require us to have communities fall under that legislation at some point in the future. And that at some point in the future would be determined through regulation. So we have struck a working group and we were about to have our first meeting just as COVID started to come down on us. We did go ahead with the meeting, although it was a bit of a challenge with everything else going on, but just to get a little bit of face time with all of the people who put their name forward and talk about what work needs to happen. Since that time, 2 things happened. One was, of course, everybody got...
What we saw were the priorities of the Legislative Assembly. So when the new acts or changes were put out, there wasn't a lot of time for feedback. Make sure that as communities we are engaged and a part of the process before the legislation is written or before it is amended, so that we can have valuable input on what those changes are. We have had a couple of questions come up in the chat, and I know that there are questions from people on the phone, or on video. So I think I'll take first if there's anybody on video that has a question. Mayor Kulikowski.
Thank you. It's actually Mayor Alty asked me to just make sure to ask this out loud, was if the $40 million was the funding gap previously, and we've heard
because the GNWT has a legal commitment to the lessee that they need to fulfill.
Thank you. Further questions or comments?
Hello.
Okay, Mayor, we have Mayor
Hello.
Rubin. Oh. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure who it is on the call. So we'll take Mayor Rubin from Polytech, and then we'll go back to the caller for the question.
Thank you, Eleanor, for the presentation and updates. I was going to hold off, and I thought, well, we're over already, so I'd ask quickly or bring to the attention of the group. I wish I had stats, you know, for not only the region but for the territories in terms of qualified. And looking in the School of Community Governments program, I am aware of a couple of successful training candidates who have gone through the program in the territories. I'm wondering if there's enough need across the NWT for something a little larger and less expensive to put through your program. Getting a group together. I gave an example of the housing oil burner mechanic training they had in Rankin Inlet just over winter throughout the COVID season, and how successful that we ended up getting one qualified oil burner mechanic for our community through that program. And I know as well a lot of other communities, because they gathered and they got together and they trained. I wonder if that's not something that, if there's enough need for qualified staff for a call to up the programs to address, you know, the call of more communities.
Thank you, Mayor Rubin. And this is, from my personal perspective, one of the big reasons why I'm pushing the conversation with the School of Community Government, because I'm asked almost weekly about whether what the school is delivering is resulting in filling the needs. And I know that it's not, because I know how many of you are looking, and it has sometimes taken 3 and 4 competitions to secure staff. And we're asked regularly for names of people who might be available for fill-in and things like that. So I know how difficult it is out there right now. And so when we're looking at this plan for the school, I do really want to understand what we could be doing better. But I know that this is not just a community issue as well. I know I have been trying for 2 years, for example, to hire an engineer in Nunavut and have not been successful. And I'm looking at, you know, how can we grow our own? How can we build our own? And last year I was asked the question, you know, what would it cost for every community to have an assistant SAO so that at least you could have someone in training to be taking over? And is that potentially a solution to the problem, or is there another way to tackle this? You're right. We currently have what's called the Advancing Local Government Administrators Program. It doesn't have enough money to help every community at one time, and we've had success, but it's not success in getting us SAOs necessarily. It's training people, but often they don't take the SAO job. They might go elsewhere in the community government or elsewhere in the community. So this is something I would love to put a committee, or well, committees might be beating a problem to death, but as part of our conversation about what the school does, I'd like to work with the Association of Communities, the LGANT Association, the Department of Education to say, how can we tackle this differently? Because we're absolutely having challenges filling these positions. It's a national problem. It's just not an NWT problem, but many of you are really struggling. And every time you turn a senior position over, it takes time to get somebody trained up and ready to really be.
Go back to square one if after a certain amount of time. You talked about certification. Our water plant operators have to be certified, otherwise we end up in boil water advisories. There was our, CPR and first aid have to be certified as well for certain areas. You know, our arena gym supervisors have to be trained in first aid and CPR. And those are certified courses. Going to volunteer awards are, our search and rescues are becoming more relevant in our smaller communities because of climate change. They should be recognized in some way, and my colleague here, Sarah Kaptana, mentioned firefighters as well, and AE groups within the small communities. And I think that was it. Kona Eleanor, for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Mayor Lichtwak. And just very quickly, but I will have my regional office contact you. We do offer training for firefighters through the School of Community Government and a partnership that we have with a Southern training institution so that we can train firefighters. With water plant operators, not having a certified operator doesn't automatically put you in a boil water advisory. What puts you in a boil water advisory typically is not doing the testing that has to be done to be able to demonstrate your water is good. There are a number of options if you don't have a certified operator. We have something called a circuit rider program where we train side by side. We send a staff person in and work with the trainee in the community to help work them towards getting their certification. So, for example, if they need some on-the-job experience, or if they need to perhaps develop their math skills or something like that, and to be able to pass the test for the water plant operator, we do have support for that. We also have something called a first responder training program for CPR first aid. All of these training things, the best thing to do would be to have your senior administrative officer contact our regional superintendent and let them know what your training needs are. And then your regional office will work with their staff and our School of Community Government to try to coordinate the training that you need. In most cases, the types of training you're talking about are offered in your community. The exception might be the water plant operator, where they typically go to a different location, and it varies throughout the territory. And just finally, with the volunteer awards, that is something, if the community wants to put nominations forward, they're absolutely encouraged to do so when those nominations come out. And I will also mention there are a separate set of awards for fire departments as well, if you're not aware. And again, our regional office can point you to where that nomination process happens and how to do that if you're interested. So just encourage you to contact the regional office. They will help you out with most of the things you've mentioned.
Okay, Kona. Last part to the question, something I had been thinking of was, how our hamlets, due to COVID, we haven't been getting any testers to come in to get classifications of driver's license upgraded from class 7 to class 5, as we've had a couple classes that did pass their training for class 7, but with no testers to come in due to COVID, they haven't been able to get them upgraded to class 5. there any chance of getting community from within the community, I should say? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Lichtwak. And that's something I would have to talk with EC and the college about, and the Department of Infrastructure. Training of drivers is something the school of community government doesn't do because it is available through the college and infrastructure. So we simply provide information to communities on how to access that. But your point of getting local testers, I think, is something I could raise with my colleague at the Department of Infrastructure and see if there's any opportunity to do that. So I'll follow up with them and get back to folks on that question.
Thank you. Next, we have a question from Grant Scott.
Thank you. This discussion on training, Eleanor, has raised a pet peeve of mine for years. You recall back in the 60s and 70s, we used to be able to take an individual from a community and get them trained as an oil burner mechanic. But that program has been so sophisticated now that it's almost useless to a small community. And I've spoken to ECE in Nunavik, I've spoken to Aurora College, and I raised the issue with Premier Cochrane when she was here a few weeks ago, because now, well, for one, they don't call it an oil burner mechanic, they got some fancy name with a technician added on the end. But to get that person trained, it's a 4-year apprenticeship, which means the community government would have to have on staff a red seal person for that person to train under. And that's just a horrendous cost to any small community. And so I was wondering if School of Community Government could put something together just to have someone trained to look after oil burners in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. And that's
Hi.
Hi. This session is going to be closed, so we're just going to have to ask you to leave the room. You can watch on Facebook.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hello.
Hi, who's talking?
Hello?
Hi.
This is Celine Antoine from Fort Simpson.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Good. Are we scheduled to go at 1:30?
Yeah, it should be starting up here any minute.
Okay. I just got to make sure I'm on mute. So I'm going to try again in 1 second after I mute. If you don't hear me, can you just say it's muted, please?
Perfect.
It's hard to tell with this phone, so thank you. I'm going to mute now.
Okay. Yeah, you're muted. I can see you on the screen here. Not everybody is back from lunch yet, so. For those of you coming in, we're just going to start up pretty soon. Everybody's just getting back.
Okay, who was barking?
Yeah.
That would be my dog, Karen's dog here. I just had to quickly mute while she was barking. Everybody seems to be filtering in. We should be starting up pretty soon. So I'm just going to double check on a couple of people that still have phone numbers here. 445-2240. Who are you?
Karen.
What about 690-4353? Who are you?
Just a reminder.
Hi there, it's Betty from Stack.
Hi, Betty. I'm just going to put your name in here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm still looking for 445-2240. Okay, I'm going to just move the 445 person to another room for a minute until we can sort that out. You're going to be in a room with Cynthia if I can figure out how. Oh, wait. No, Okay, looks like we have everybody named right now.
you all for your patience. We are just waiting to ensure that we have quorum for voting this afternoon, so we may be just a little bit longer getting started. I know I'm really missing being in Hay River for the AGM because I like to visit my sister while I'm there. Okay.
You're allowed to come over to Hay River anytime you want.
Do we have? We do?
No, I haven't heard yet.
Okay. All right, so we do have quorum. Before we start our resolution sessions, I would ask anyone who is not a voting member to mute your video screen so that only voting delegates are seen on screen. And at this time, I will pass the chair to Mayor Candace Jamieson.
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's great to see so many familiar faces out there, but it would be nicer if we were doing this together. And I would have loved to showcase the community and hopefully get some of the, hopefully next year we can get some of the Canada Carnival events in and see everybody here. But so this afternoon, we are working on current year resolutions and past year resolutions. So during the February 16th, 2021 Resolution Committee conference call, the committee reviewed and made recommendations to the 2021 resolutions. This information was sent to your communities on February 19th, 2021. Hopefully you have all had a chance to review the recommendations. So procedures for this session. The resolution session has two voting processes. One is to vote on the category, and the second is to vote on concurrence or non-concurrence of the resolution. So voting on the categories. The categories are as follows. Category A would be territorial-wide municipal issues. This category will contain resolutions on issues that are of a direct or indirect concern to all our communities. Category B are issues which pertain to regional concerns only or are not within municipal jurisdiction. This category will contain resolutions which are of a regional concern only or not within municipal jurisdictions. No action is taken on Category B resolutions. Category C, matters dealt with by the NWT Association of Communities in the previous 3 years. This category will contain resolutions related to specific matters which have already been considered by the NWT Association of Communities within the previous 3 years. These resolutions will be received for information only. Okay, so with that, we've got 4 new resolutions. Category A, I believe. Okay, so first is 2021-01, Amendment to Disaster Assistance Policy, Solid Waste Management Facility Fires. So I need a mover. Where am I here?
I'll move.
Thank you.
Sorry, Rebecca Alty.
And I need a seconder to the motion. And this is on category only.
I'll second Robert Bouchard.
Okay. Are there any questions on the category A? Okay, so please note that communities, so we have a mover and a seconder, so I am going to allow, each community has 3 minutes to speak to their resolutions. And this one was submitted by the town of Hay River. And I believe that Deputy Mayor Bouchard would like to speak to this. Oh, wait, sorry, we're only on category.
Yeah, we're just on the category.
Yeah, sorry, we're only on category. So with that being said, is there anyone who is against? None being noted, motion carries. So the second would be on the resolution itself, looking for a mover.
Rebecca Alty moves.
Mayor Kulikowski from NWTAC, thank you. Seconded by, Councillor Mike Corvette. So, and now I will give the Deputy Mayor of Hay River an opportunity to speak to the resolution. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
All right, I was on mute there. Yeah, I think most people have known the situation in Hay River. Early in March of 2019, we had a fire at the landfill facility that basically turned into a large fire. On March 10th, we declared a state of an emergency, asking for assistance and fighting the fire. There was a large plume of fire of smoke that was over the community. The fire was near our storage of tires, which would lead to more. Right after the fire had started, the schools and the media, basically we put a press release out to the media to keep people inside that had breathing issues. And then we went through the whole process. It took several weeks to fight the fire and combat the fire. And we had a state of emergency. So we had EMO meetings several weeks on end with GNWT officials, with all the officials involved, ENR, lands, air quality people were brought into the community. After the fact, the costs associated right now, that have totaled to $938,000. We went through an insurance policy review. Because you're basically burning garbage, there was no real mitigation or anything, real loss of assets. So we received $100,000 for that. So the cost of the dump fire in Hay River was over $800,000. So when we went to the GNWT, they said there was no immediate loss to assets. The facility is a little ways from people, but it is right beside the river. And we were dumping millions of gallons into the river. So there was all kinds of people concerned about the environmental impact, all the concerns with the plume, the proximity of tires, several different issues. So, I mean, I think we wanted to make sure that everybody knew from a community's perspective that all of us have dumps and waste management facilities in our communities. And basically, we were rejected for any funding from the GNWT for this cost. Our understanding is we declare a state of emergency. We have GNWT involved. They were involved in the whole process. But yet, because the town of Hay River had been fiscally responsible and had a good situation and cash situation on some stuff, we were looking to put some of that money into our capital infrastructure, using it for infrastructure development. We were declined. And I think the resolution kind of states a bunch of different facts that they indicated that we only could get up to $100,000. Nowadays, everybody knows environmental wise, just the general cost of everything is not $100,000. Wouldn't cover very much of any kind of emergency. So we're looking to increase those limits. We're looking to increase the fact that we did declare a state of emergency, and we feel that that's what the GNWT's responsibility is in that role. we still are very frustrated and very mad with the GNWT and the departments that were involved that we didn't get any funding for this. You know, we basically ran up a credit from the GNWT's perspective that we knew that the GNWT we thought the GNWT was going to cover us for these costs. So, you know, I want to say the town council of Hay River are going to do different things when they have a state of emergency now. We are going to, MACA and the other departments are going to have to deal directly with the state of emergency because they basically burnt up a credit with us. You know, we got zero support here. So from my perspective, it's very frustrating and very maddening, and our council's very mad. There was a state of emergency. There was a big plume of smoke, and I don't know if your community is similar to ours, but anytime we have any kind of fire in our community, people start smelling stuff, and then they're just like, "Hey, what is that? What's the concerns?" Never mind, you have a dump fire that right beside it. We have a storage facility for tires. You know, it was a state of emergency. It was a big concern for the residents of Hay River, and environmentally, air quality wise, just a bunch of different scenarios. We just don't believe that we didn't get any funding for this, but the resolution is that we want to protect everybody, other communities from this happening to you. If it happens to you, you need to know that you're not going to get some of that funding if this resolution doesn't get dealt with.
Okay, so. Your 3 minutes are up, Deputy. So I'm going to have to cut you off. But what the resolution says is that we are asking the government of the Northwest Territories to recognize extraordinary emergency fires at solid waste management facilities within the NWT, and that they update their disaster assistance policy to reflect the true costs, as well as that there are extraordinary emergency solid waste management facility fires can be considered a disaster. So that's what that one's about. So now I'm calling the question on the resolution. So if no one is against the recommended concurrent motion, is anyone against the motion? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to resolution number 2021-02, property tax forgiveness when property is destroyed by fire. So that one states now, therefore be it resolved that the NWT Association of Communities urge the government of the Northwest Territories to consider amending the Property Assessment and Taxation Act to enable the senior administrative officer of a municipal taxing authority to approve, upon application by the assessed owner, the reduction or rebate of a portion of the property taxes when an improvement is damaged or destroyed by fire that has rendered it unfit for further use or occupation. So this one was submitted by the City of Yellowknife, and so Mayor Rebecca Alty, if you would like to speak to it. Oh, I'm going to need a motion. Sorry, I need a motion. Okay, I got a motion from Councillor Mike and Mayor Kulikowski. And yeah, Sarah, I know. We're going to do first. So category, that's fine with Councillor Corvette and Mayor Kulikowski. Okay, so I'm going back and forth here. Sorry, guys. So this is discussion on category only. Is there any questions on category? Okay, none being noted. If no one is against the category, anyone against? None being noted, motion carries. Okay, so now I'm looking for a motion on the resolution itself. Mayor Kulikowski, seconded by Mayor Napier. And now I'll pass it over to Mayor Alty to speak to it.
Thank you. So the GNWT has signified that, or identified that they are looking to update the Property Assessment and Taxation Act, PATA, this term. And so this is another motion that we're adding regarding PATA and the need to update it. Right now, if somebody, after we've assessed their property at the start of the year, if their property is damaged by a fire, they need to apply to city council to get their property taxes reassessed. And so we really feel that this is more of an administrative process that should be able to be resolved by the SAO, that, you know, a council develops a policy or a city develops a policy, and then the SAO just follows it, as opposed to every single fire application coming to council, which is, you know, pretty difficult for families after they've lost their home. Then they've got to publicly come and make that request. So I think it's an administrative process as opposed to a political one every fire that happens. Happy to take any questions if they are.
Any questions on the resolution? Oh, Councillor Dave Weaver.
So would this only be applicable to tax-based communities, or would this be throughout GNWT?
It would be through PATA, so anybody that is under the Property Assessment and Taxation Act.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Crevette.
Yeah, just a quick question. Is there any reason why this is being limited to a structure being destroyed only by fire? There's other natural causes that, such as most recently in Fort Smith, we had a structure semi-destroyed by a tornado. So I was just wondering if there was a specific reason why it was just specified destroyed by fire.
Mayor Alty?
Fire is the only one that's been an impact here in Yellowknife, but if other communities are able to forgive property taxes when properties are destroyed by other natural events, it could be modified to say, you know, when property is destroyed, then the SAO has that ability. Here in Yellowknife, the only time we've done property tax forgiveness is when a property is destroyed by fire.
Thank you. Any further questions? Nothing noted. So again, is anybody against the motion? Oh, sorry, Councillor Weaver.
Yeah, sorry, just one more question. Just roughly, like, I understand that fires happen, but I would also state that would probably be a rare occurrence in a community. I'm not sure if Yellowknife has significantly more. I know our community has a couple, but I really don't see it being a burden to go to a council for forgiveness. I'm not sure if I could support this one.
Do you want to respond to that, Mayor Alty? Go ahead.
We do get probably 1 to 2 fires a year, so it really just is a case of it should be an administrative thing as opposed to coming to council. However, the property, if a council wanted to maintain the rights that that property owners should be coming to them, that's something that could be considered. So I think that amending the property assessment and taxation to enable the senior administrator, to enable council to delegate that authority to the SAO is what we're looking for. So again, some communities may decide that, nope, everybody's got to come to council and make their pitch. Other communities may say, no, we want to delegate that authority to a senior administrative officer. Again, it's kind of difficult for families, especially when you're going through an insurance process. You're trying to purchase all your stuff within the 6 months window that you have. There's a lot of stuff that families have to do after a fire. So adding the burden of coming to council and making their pitch is just something that we're looking to remove from residents.
Okay, thank you. That makes more sense.
Okay, so is anyone against the resolution?
I have a comment?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Lynn. Mayor Napier.
Thank you. So I am supporting this one, and kind of for the same reason that I'm supporting the earlier one, is that you know, we had a tornado in our community. Hay River has had fires near their, like forest fires near their community. You know, I think that we're going to end up having more extreme fire events, or not fire events, like weather events. You look at the flooding that happened last summer. There are a lot of homes that are along riverbanks and bodies of water. So I think that I'm wondering if we can just change, just take out by a fire, where it is damaged or destroyed, so that, and I don't know if there's alternative wording in there so that we can say that it's like not by like the, you know, not on purpose, but I think that this is important, and this does face communities across the north because of flooding, because of riverbanks, because of forest fires, tornadoes, and any other impacts like that.
Like natural causes?
Natural disasters,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. Are you
Yeah.
okay with that, Mayor Altig?
I'm just pulling up PATA because I'm just trying to see what our authority is. Because I'm not quite sure actually if we can.
Okay, Mayor Altig, it looks like you have concurrence. I'm going to ask one more time if anybody, no one recommends this or is not in concurrence with the motion.
Yeah, so I was just seeing property assessment and taxation. It says that damaged or destroyed by fire or other cause. So if we wanted to add that wording
For other cause.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's on record, and so no one is against this motion. So carries. Thank you. Okay, in regards to resolution number 2021-03, accessibility legislation. So on this one, it is category A as well, and we're looking for concurrence. For category A, I need a mover. Mayor Napier, seconded by Councillor Couvette. And any questions on category A? Okay, so is anybody against? None being noted, motion carries for category A. So next is, I need a motion on the resolution. Mayor Napier, seconded by Councillor, I think it's Weaver. Is it Weber? Sorry if I get it wrong. Oh, good. Weber?
Weaver is right.
Weaver, thank you. Sorry about that. I want to make sure I'm doing it. Got it. So seconded by there. Any questions? I'm going to go to it. This one is on its accessibility legislation, like I said, and it says, now therefore be it resolved that the government of the Northwest Territories establish comprehensive accessibility legislation that enables all persons to participate fully in society without barriers by providing clarity of requirements and standards to be met throughout the Northwest Territories. This was submitted by the City of Yellowknife as well. So again, Mayor Altig, do you want to speak on it?
Sure, thank you. So this one comes a bit, as was mentioned this morning, the Northwest Territories is the only jurisdiction in Canada without a building act, so without a territorial building act. So right now we follow the National Building Code, and then through the cities, towns, and villages, we kind of rely on the clause about the municipality has the right to make a bylaw about to protect the health and welfare of citizens. And so that's where we've given ourselves the authority to do a building bylaw. But it really should come from a building act. And what we're seeing is with accessibility and building standards is that just following the National Building Code isn't always sufficient. And when concerns are brought to the Human Rights Board here in the Northwest Territories. So we're looking to have the Governor of the Northwest Territories provide more guidance and clarity on the requirements and standards so that we can make sure that buildings are built to ensure residents can participate in society without barriers, moving forward as well as when renovating. So happy to take any questions on this one.
Any questions? Okay, none being noted. So I am looking for anyone who is not or who is against the resolution. None being noted, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, second one is resolution 2020, or fourth one. Look at that. Resolution number 2021-04, NWT Association of Communities, Climate Change Call to Action, Building Resilience Through Thriving and Inclusive Communities. And this one as well is category A. And I'm looking for a motion for category A. Oh, Councillor Weaver, and seconded by Mayor Alty. Oh, there's Ryan waving away. Thanks, guys. So any questions on category A? None noted. So any opposition to category A? Does anybody oppose the motion? None being noted, motion carries. Okay, so now I need a motion on the resolution. Mayor Kulikowski and Mayor Alty. Okay, so this would be, does anyone, Sarah, is somebody speaking to this one? You're on mute, Sarah, sorry. This was
on mute.
This was submitted by the NWTAC Board of Directors.
Yes. This is in response to the challenge that we know that many of you are facing with trying to respond to some of your community members who want you to declare states of emergency. And often we're seeing councils being supportive of their initiatives. However, states of emergency have a very specific definition within our various acts, and it's not it's a problem for you to try to do that. So instead we thought we could embrace and endorse this call to action as an association, but also offer it up as something that you may want to adopt back home in your home communities as well. So it's written in that context. So we all know how serious and impacted our communities are. We want to do the right thing and encourage others to do the right thing to mitigate, but also that we need support for dealing with adaptation. So that's the context that it's been crafted in. And as I said, I hope when you all go home, if this passes, I hope when you all go home that you also consider taking it to your councils.
Thanks, Sarah. Any questions for Sarah in regards to the resolution? Oh, go ahead, Mayor Nearstu. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Sure can.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just on this issue, though, I think there's several other issues that need to be addressed. One, I think the territorial government needs to improve their overall climate change position and policy. And here's why I raise this question and suggest that the municipal leadership probably needs to be a little more engaged in this. One, the NWT, in my view, should be one of the leaders in climate change policy and initiatives in Canada, to be really honest with you, simply because our communities are going to have the most significant impact with climate change, whether or not it's warming or whatever else you want to talk about. We need to make sure that we look at policies that support renewable energy development, whether or not it's solar, biomass, hydro development, whether we look at improving the energy efficiencies of our businesses, our homes, whether or not we allow for development of renewable energy sources. I could probably speak to a number of initiatives. One, Mayor Kulikowski knows that the NWTAC, for instance, have undertaken a energy project in their community. There's been a number of initiatives across the Northwest Territories, but my thinking right now, and I'm going to be engaged in and have been for some time now, on a project called Indigenous Energy Initiative. And we're looking at trying to reduce emissions, reduce use of diesel in our communities. But the stumbling block around all of that is the NWD policy. And I really think maybe the leadership of the municipality should start to review that and look at how we might be able to assist the territorial government in improving our response to the climate change conversation, and more than that, how we could improve our ability to have the policies that will encourage the municipalities and the communities to undertake renewable energy development and support the idea of improving the energy efficiencies of homes and businesses. I know that might be a question as to whether or not it's going to be less money, but in my view, improving the quality and health of life of individuals and the environment is as important to us as it is to the idea of just simply making money. And maybe making money should be around how we respond to climate change and be a leader in that. I don't think we should just simply accept that we work on the margins. I really think that the North and can be the leaders in this, leaders for Canada, leaders for Indigenous communities, and leaders for the world. And so I'm looking to the leadership in the municipalities and our First Nations and our Indigenous leadership to be part of the conversation, not just be led down a road that doesn't allow us the change that's necessary for all of us to improve the well-being of our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sarah?
Yes, thank you very much. We couldn't agree with you more, Mayor. That's not the intent of what is here before you, and we have a series of resolutions that it says exactly what you just said, that we will be hopefully reaffirming this afternoon, because we have actually really been aggressive with the territorial government about this, and everything you said was spot on compared to those resolutions.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, none being noted. Is there anybody who is against the resolution? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And thanks for your patience as I work through those ones. So moving on to the next section. The procedures for this session, the recommended prior year resolutions were sent to members' communities on February 19th, 2021. We hope that delegates have read the reports. We will proceed with the 2021 recommended prior year resolutions of the NWT Association of Communities. In the past years, we have approved the prior year resolutions in blocks. If there are any resolutions that require further discussions, we can remove them from the block and deal with these resolutions later during this session. As you will note, there are a number of resolutions to go through. Resolutions are divided into 3 categories. Reaffirmed resolutions refers to a resolution whose objective has not been achieved and which should be actively pursued by the NWT Association of Communities Board of Directors. Standing resolutions refer to a resolution that reflects a standing resolution of the NWT Association of Communities. The objective may have been achieved once, but may have to be restated because of a change in the government, ministers, or department personnel. It also refers to a resolution not requiring active pursuit for one reason or another. And these resolutions have been deleted from the NWT Association of Communities Resolution Manual. So at this time, I will ask all delegates if there are any prior year resolutions within the 3 categories that require further discussion. Councillor Corbett.
Yeah, I would like to speak to RA-21-20-12, which was the reappointment of, oops, my other screen just popped down. Reinstate the public boards of Aurora College, the NWT Power Corp, and also resolution RA-21-2013, which is reinstate local health authorities.
Okay, so we will take note of that and we will come back to them. So where am I? Okay, so we will require a mover and a seconder to approve the 2021 reaffirmed resolutions of the NWTAC as per the attached summary list. These are the reaffirmed resolutions. Please state members' names and communities for the minutes. So looking for a mover for this block. Oh, Mayor Kulikowski. Oh, and Mayor Nirasu. Thank you, guys. Okay, so any questions? Is there anyone against the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, we will require a mover and a seconder to approve the 2021 standing resolutions of the NWT Association of Communities as per the attached summary list. Again, I please ask that you state your name and community, but I can usually see you, so we should be good. Looking for a mover. Councillor Weaver made the motion, seconded by Councillor Ryan. And I, oh, your last name just totally went out. But Sarah's got that. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, any questions? None being noted. Is there anyone against the motion? Okay, motion is carried. And our last block, which is the deleted ones. So looking to approve the 2021, reaffirmed, deleted resolutions of the NWT Association of Communities as per the attached summary list. Looking for a motion. Nope, Councillor Weaver, Norman Wells. And I need a seconder, Councillor Corrett from Fort Smith. Thanks, guys. Is there anyone or any questions to the motion on the deleted resolutions? Oh, Councillor Bernard. I don't have your last name on my screen. Sorry about that, but go ahead.
That's okay. Councillor Bernard is my last name. So it's probably just a question that everybody else knows, but deleted resolutions, does it also come in terms of archive information? Because I'm looking at, for example, the training for community fire departments, DL 21-0906. I see here that this resolution is from 2001. And considering we're still having some issues, at least we are in our community, getting firefighters trained, I'm just wondering if we can use that as a historical context, because that's 20 years in the making. If I'm not, you know what I mean, if I'm just reading it directly. So I'm just curious to see if these deleted resolutions are still available as archives, or just to look back if the resolution or a similar one is brought up. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Bernard. They are, as far as I know, but I will let Sarah speak to that.
Yes, we absolutely keep them. They go in a database and we manage them there. Thank you.
Are there any further questions to the motion? You're welcome. Is there anyone who is against this motion? None noted. All in favor? So that motion carries. So the next one is, we are going back to what were the numbers there? Sarah did, it was motion or resolution 2021-20-12, and that's reinstatement of boards of education. I believe the next one, 2021-20-13, is health authorities. So how do we want to proceed?
Can we let Councillor Coubret speak to them, as he was the one who wanted to come back to them?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. The reason I just wanted to speak to them is, if we look at the resolutions and the government reply to last year's resolutions, I felt that the reply was totally inadequate. Speaking first to the resolution about number 12, which was specific to the reappointment of the Board of Governors for Aurora College and the NWT Power Corp. I want to specifically speak to the Board of Governors for Aurora College / the proposed Polytech. This initiative is one of the most significant initiatives our government's undertaking with respect to education and post-secondary education. People were completely dismayed back in, I believe it was 2017, when the board was disassembled by the then Minister of Education. And it was really no adequate reason was provided, other than that they were going through this process of evaluating how to better deliver post-secondary education. Here we are 3-4 years further along. The government has put out the response to a study that was done. They put out a couple of discussion papers. All of this work has been basically generated by a bureaucracy internal to ECE. We're talking about one of the most significant reorganizations and potential investment in post-secondary education, and there's absolutely no public oversight of what's happening. And here we are. Their response is, oh, don't worry, we'll have somebody overlooking this by fall of 2022. If you look at the timelines for the development of the Polytech, by 2022, all the most significant decisions regarding the direction and development of this proposed Polytech are going to be pretty well, maybe not carved in stone, but pretty well, they'll have them quite well outlined in the blocks, and it will be extremely difficult to make any changes. And this is all being done by a bureaucracy internal to EC&E with no public oversight whatsoever. Initially, I wanted to bring this forward as a new resolution for calling for the immediate reappointment of a board of governors for Aurora College to oversee the transformation from Aurora College to a polytech. And I think we need to bring this to the minister's attention tomorrow, which we will be doing through a question that's been submitted, as to why this board hasn't been reappointed and why is it going to take another 1.5 years for this to happen, given that it is one of the most significant post-secondary education moves. And before I rant on any further, I will hopefully there's other people that feel quite passionate about this as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments, questions? Mayor Alty, go ahead.
Thanks. I was just going to say, it'd probably be a good question for the bear pit tomorrow if people are unhappy with the responses, because I also take a look at their response regarding day homes and social housing, and their answer contradicts what they say on their website about, because they have a mandate about advancing universal childcare, and they said that they actually completed the policy in fall of 2020, whereas their answer here says they're exploring what can happen. So instead of having this discussion here, maybe we jot down some concerns we have with their responses and bring it forward as bear pit, or send them into Sarah through the NWTAC, and the board can have a response to the GNWT in regards to, this response wasn't adequate. What did you mean here? And that type of stuff.
Thank you, Mayor Alty. Go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to echo some of what Mayor Alty said, that in fact instructions to the board to push like this are completely appropriate. And as well, the minister's question, the bear pit, that question is there, and there will obviously it's a really important issue. As well, within the interactive sessions, there are going to be between 4 and 5 different sessions with ECE, early childhood, and child care. Also JK to 12, and then the transformation of the college, and skills for success. So that's where it becomes critically important, when you can sit and have that dialogue too. But we will be doing everything we can. And I think that instruction can be in place without having to open up the resolution. Because, and this is the sort of forum where that should happen, that direction to the board. And as well, as Mayor Alty mentioned, if there's stuff you want to send to me, I will make sure it gets in front of the board as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Will we need a motion to reaffirm these two as we pull them out of the block? Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to reaffirm. Now I've lost my little numbers again. The two motions that are reaffirm 2021-20-12 and reaffirm 2021-20-13. Looking for a motion. Deputy Mayor Bouchard from Hay River and Councillor Weaver from Norman Wells. Thank you. Anybody oppose? Motion carries.
No, there were some other comments.
Oh, was there? Sorry.
And we didn't actually talk about 13.
Oh, you're right. Mike, sorry, Councillor Cravette, did you want to speak to 2021-2013 health boards?
I think with the health boards again, 2013 was dealing with the health boards, and it's just the lack of the smaller communities and the general public to have a voice that's heard. Now we're dealing with these health super boards, and the average person out on the street has no idea where to turn to do when they have issues dealing with the health and social services programming within the communities. Just speaking to both resolutions, I would just like to see one word added to it, and that would be the immediate reappointment.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mayor Kulikowski, go ahead.
Maybe it's just a different experience here. Like I took part in the last regional board meeting, or however they're called now here, and I was the only person who wasn't on the board who tuned in, and it was a public meeting that was, of course, broadcast on Zoom or whatever the platform was. So there is actually more opportunity, I would think, because of the online platforms than we had previously, like if you couldn't physically get to a meeting. And so personally, in my experience, I feel like the board that we do have here is accessible. So I just wanted to make that point that it is accessible if you click the link. So.
Thanks, Mayor Kulikowski. Deputy Mayor Bouchard from Hay River, go ahead.
Yeah, and I completely agree with Mike Gruvette from Fort Smith. I think there's a disconnect. I think we have bureaucrats, deputy ministers running all these organizations, and there's no board or public listening to the person on the street or what their concerns are, whether that's health, power corporation, education. There's definitely a disconnect there, and I know those deputy ministers typically are the ones that are making decisions on the finance side of it and everything. So I think there's a disconnect from the public's perspective. Yes, there's some public meetings, but there's no person on the street or somebody that you can tie to in your region or your community that you talk to if you have a health issue. There's one individual in our community. If you're dealing about health, the power corporation, who do you go to? You need to know somebody up in the hierarchy. And I imagine most of us as councillors and mayors and stuff like that have access to that. But I'm talking about the general public. There's definitely a disconnect from the leadership to the general public. So.
Thank you. Mayor Nurisu, you had a question, comment? You're on mute. I can't hear you.
Okay. I keep trying to unmute, so. This issue is more than just these particular boards. It's a policy position. It's almost as if, like for me, I've maybe because I came from the past where we thought that the best ideas and the most thoughtful people were in our communities, and that they to be engaged and involved in these public processes, and that they could make decisions on behalf of their communities or in their regions. And what I'm finding now is that everything seems to be centralized, and that we have a policy position of centralizing all the decision and really starting to ignore the ability of our citizens to be part of the activity and the decisions that are going to lead us down the road. And I think that's a really fundamental policy we have to understand, because we have to believe that we can trust our people to be spokesperson and to do the right things for the people of the Northwest Territories. All these things can't be political. I mean, not everything is political. The other thing that if I could, Madam Chair, is this. Let's go back to the conversation a few minutes ago about the college and where we're headed. It's a strange concept that in the Yukon, that a public board can lead a college into a new view, that a college can go to a university with public participation between people that come from the communities and the Indigenous community. And they're doing it very thoughtfully. Why? Because they're getting the views and the representation of people in the communities. Not everything needs to be seen as though we're against one another. Somehow we have to take these issues and turn them into something that is more creative, thoughtful, and progressive and beneficial to all our citizens. And at the moment, from the policy position that we centralize everything and everybody could, we go through this historical conversation. If everything is better in the center, we might as well send the government of the NWT back to Ottawa, because you're better off with it all being in Ottawa. If the argument is about cost, then that is where it should be. On the other hand, if it's about the people of the North, then the people of the North need to be engaged in that exercise. And I believe we can work around that. But so far, all I've seen is this idea of centralizing at the disadvantage of the people at the community level or at the region. And I think we need to have that conversation so that all of these instruments that are affecting and impacting our communities and our citizens have the involvement of the people in the communities and in the regions as well. Because I think we have a good sense of what are the things that are required in our regions, in our communities, and I think we can work those things out. But at the moment, it just seems that we're not being allowed to do those kinds of things with each other. This gathering right here shows that we have an ability to see beyond just the politics, but we're looking at what is in the interest of our people and our communities. And very different, but we bring to the table the ideas and those thoughts that would improve the quality of life for our people. I just wanted to say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Nerisu. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that we've gone backwards in dissolving these boards over the years, that we don't have the input from our communities. It's like top-down leadership instead of bottom-up. Your frontline people are the ones that are there in the communities dealing with hospitals and nursing stations and dealing with different aspects of their schools. And to go backwards is really a loss, I feel, for the voice of the people at the government level. Thank you. And I see that Deputy Mayor Bouchard from Hay River has his hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Worship, or Madam Chair. I just thing I wanted to add to in those boards is the fact that we have deputy ministers running most of them, and Deputy Minister of ITI is definitely not somebody that should be giving all the information for a power corporation. Power is separate, a whole different creature. Same thing with education. We have these deputy ministers that are running different departments, and my dig would be most of them are from the south, but their expertise are definitely not in these areas. They're just assigned to the boards depending on what the leadership wants at that time. So I think we need to go back to those boards where there's expertise and people in the communities.
Yeah, so that our voices are heard. Totally agree. Okay, so I believe that we're all going to have an opportunity tomorrow when the ministers are in the bear pit, and it sounds like we've got some very passionate voices out there, and that's great. And hopefully leadership listens to what we're saying moving forward. So do we want to proceed in reaffirming these resolutions? So, go ahead, Sarah.
To speak to Councillor Griffiths' request, you could pass a resolution making those changes first and then reaffirm.
Okay.
Do it as two separate motions. We don't have to get a friendly amendment request or anything like that in this case. So if you just amend it and then reaffirm it.
Okay, got my marching orders. So Councillor Griffiths is making the motion to amend the resolution. I need a seconder to amend the resolution. Oh, I got Mayor. Okay, I can't. Oh, perfect. I can't read it on my glasses on. Sorry, guys. I'm doing Talita. Got it. Thank you. And is there anyone who poses a motion to amend?
Candace, can you remind me which motion is it? Is it the RA 21-20-12?
12, correct.
Okay.
Start with that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Alty. Okay, so no motions against or no opposition, so motion carries. And so I'm looking for a motion to reaffirm 2021-20-12. Oh, Mayor Napier from Fort Smith and seconded by Councillor Weaver from Norman Wells. Anybody oppose no opposition, motion carries. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to amend 2021-20-13. Councillor Cravette from Fort Smith, seconded by Councillor Weaver from Norman Wells. Any opposition to the motion to amend?
Candace, Mayor Jameson, the amendment again is, what's the word that wants to be added?
Immediate was the recommendation in both.
Can we speak to the matter?
Sure, absolutely. I thought we had. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, sorry. Just, yeah, I think I am supportive of the Aurora College and Power Corporation boards. The health authorities, I think there is value in having one board with the regional councils, because previously when we had the different boards, they couldn't actually transfer patient information. So if you received your doctor appointment in your home community and then were transferred to Stanton wouldn't have access to your records because that's a different health authority. So there is patient improvement when you have one health authority. And if folks have seen in Ontario, again, that's where they've got multiple different health authorities. They're not sharing resources when it comes to a pandemic because everybody's keeping the resources for themselves, as opposed to having one system where, you need more nurses here. Okay, boom, these people can get transferred, as opposed to previously you're moving in different systems. So do I think the regional councils are working well? There looks like there's a lot of vacancies. My question is whether it's a delay in appointing people or people don't know about them, which is, there's lots of different problems there. So before saying, we should throw this out and go back to the old way, I think we need improvements on the Regional Wellness Council before, advocating to return to the previous system. So I guess it would be changing the whole motion to, so I won't be supporting the motion as presented.
Amended.
As amended or presented, because I think we need a different motion about, instead of reinstating local health authorities, I think there needs to be an improvement of regional wellness councils, or we need further information on how to improve the flow of information from communities and residents and the healthcare system. So I won't be supporting the motion as amended or as presented.
Fair enough. Any other comments, questions? Okay, none being noted. I'm looking for opposition. If you're opposed, please stick up your card. I got 1, 2. I have 2 opposed. Okay, so motion carries. So I'm now on 2021-20-13. We need an motion now to reaffirm. Looking for a motion. Councillor Cravette from Fort Smith, seconded by Councillor Weaver from Norman Wells. Any questions to the motion? Those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, so again, thank you for your patience as I stumbled through that. I only have to do it once a year, so I do apologize. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to our chair, Mayor Napier. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
We can now.
Okay. Thank you for your patience while I got that sorted. So our next presentation is from the insurance side of NWTAC. Please welcome the manager of your Northern Communities Insurance Program, Karen Coronin, who is presenting our 2021 annual report of NCIP North 6. Karen?
Well, you guys just ripped through those resolutions. I was hardly ready to go here. So can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I just don't know how loud I am here. So as far as the insurance program, I know this is the portion of the AGM that everybody waits for with bated breath. Sorry I didn't make it to my report yesterday, but my dentist demanded to see me in the afternoon there. So as far as the insurance program, the financials are still strong and steady. The program has been strong and steady since inception, even through this COVID and the ups and downs of the stock markets and things. We actually, because we were out of the office here this past year and unable to do any kind of travel, so there's a little bit of a savings there. So the business side has, even a little bit more money in the bank than usual, and the insurance side that pays for claims and things is still as strong as ever. Investments took a bit of a downturn there in February and March when there was so much uncertainty of what was happening in the world. Since then, they've rebounded, and we've made money over this time last year. So things are still steady and strong with regard to the financial portion of the insurance program itself. Renewal is coming up. This is end of March is when this current policy year ends. So we have been in talks. Usually we go in person and meet with the underwriters to give them a sense of us and for us to get a sense of them. This year we've had to try and do that through venues such as Zoom. It's a little more complicated and challenging, but at the same time, we've been really lucky because we have a good group working with us. For example, the Aon group and a lot of the underwriting team that have been with us for some time. So we've been strong that way. The problem lies in the insurance industry in general. There's been a lot of floods and fires and hailstorms, and the COVID business, there's a lot of business interruption money and uncertainty as to how that will affect the insurance industry. So the market is, the insurance market is in a state of flux right now, more so than it's been in for 20 years, which is actually longer than I've been in insurance, and a lot of people have been in insurance. So it's a new realm out there right now, and in that sense, we're getting asked for a lot more information about you guys and our programs. So you'll see more applications coming out, or at least your admin people are seeing them. Any of you SAOs that are in the room, you already know that there's all kinds of information, more information being asked for this year. And that's driven by the change in the insurance market worldwide. It's got nothing to do with us in the NWT. We actually have, we are still a good, strong program, and people want to insure you guys, but worldwide, this is being driven that way. So you'll see a lot more information being requested from you. That being said, the program, because the financial position is still good, as far as we know right now, nothing is going to change in terms of cost premium rates to you guys. That was the biggest mandate that we had going into making this program so many years ago, was not to change rates, and so far we do not have to do that. And but we will know more specifically by the end of March what kind of cost increases the program will get. That being said, I believe at this time we feel that the program can bear those costs without changing anything in the interface between us and you. The appraisal, what I really want to discuss, because all of that is, you know, whatever, insurance business, who cares? What money do we give you guys, and what do we do for you? This is what we do for you. The biggest thing, again, we harp on, we talk about the appraisal program. We pay every year for an appraiser to look at all of your property assets, to inspect and comment on them, to value them, and to make sure that what we're covering, you know, if some kind of loss happens, that we have full coverage on those items. He also lists any kind of little deficiencies that can be fixed, that kind of thing, and they come out to you guys every year. There's an on-site inspection. I think it's every 5 years. I just drew a blank on that, but he does a monetary evaluation every year on those, and on-site once every 5, I think. Along with that comes the funding reports, which if you haven't seen, make sure your admin people see it. They help with the, they'll take every building and every part of every building and break it out into maintenance and repair suggestions as far as how much money to put aside. And you can use this to budget out 20 years for how your building will cost you and how to plan for that. The other big program that we've had forever is the building inspection program. All you have to do is inspect your buildings every year and we send you a check. Most communities take part in this, but not all of you do. And if you don't know if you're doing it, just give us an email in the coming days and we can help you figure out if you have done it and how much money you can get if you do it. Asset management program, we've put a lot of time and effort along with MACA into getting you a lot of information on how to help manage your assets. We did videos on pieces of equipment to help you train your staff on how to inspect a loader, a pickup truck. There's a whole bunch of them there. They are on our website. You can find them in our toolkit. It's toolkitnwtac.com. And we can, any of the stuff that I'm talking about, just email us and we can send you information on it. We still have our 8 human resources advisory services with Alan Twizzle. Unlimited advice on anything to do with human resources. He's there and can help you out. Another thing we're trying to implement is some way to help with SAO hiring. We're working on that now. It's earlier in these meetings, you guys were discussing that SAO and other types of people that you need with high skills, you know, that's difficult for especially the smaller communities to have to look for. So we're trying to figure out a way that we can help with the HR advisory program in that regard. There's still the legal support services, 3 free hours every year with Brownlee. There's a number that you can call. We can send you that if this is the first you're hearing of it. We can help you out. There's also a municipal grant inventory service. So if you're signed up for this, excuse me, this municipal MGIS will send you information on all kinds of different grants that are available out there that you might be able to apply for. And it saves you a lot of time trying to figure that out for yourself. One of the newer programs we have is the heater inspection program. Inspect all of your building's heating units, get a mechanic to sign off on it, and we'll send you $15,000. So if you don't know about this program, email me and we'll send you the requirements for that. And the other two that I wanted to talk about, the bylaw improvement program for procurement bylaw and water and sewer bylaw. You improve each one of those. We got templates made I can send you. That's $5,000 each for each of those bylaws, just to update and improve what you've got on your bylaws. Now, I think that's all I got, and I'm just looking at Sarah Brown right now in case I've forgotten anything. But I think that's my presentation, and if you guys have any questions, I can take them now if you want. And if you want, just email me later with whatever you need.
Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Weaver?
Yeah, just where would we be able to find all the resources that you just informed us on?
So there's our regular website, NWTAC.com.
Okay.
We also have toolkit. Where did I write it down? So I would remember it. ToolkitNWTAC.com. So there's not only insurance type resources, but there's resources on everything in there. You'll see when you get in.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Thank you, Karen, for your presentation. And
thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And I think now we're going into a break. Yeah. So we'll be going into a break, and then we have our guest speaker at 3:30. So please stick around.
Hey, Richard, you're saying that hair is from stress, not old age?
Were you chatting, Robert?
Yeah, I said your white hair is coming from stress, not from old age.
Absolutely. What else would that be?
Yeah, I guess, eh? Colin McFoo right now?